Let's start with basic routing in Laravel. I'll start by creating a new Laravel 11 application. And let's open the folder containing our new project in Visual Studio Code. And here we have it. So for basic routing, we're only going to need one file, and this file is in the routes folder. Okay, so over here, routes. And here you can find a file called web.php. For basic routing, that's all you're going to need. So by default, that's what we have in this file, and we can see that we only have one route. That's the root route, or /, and it's pointing to a view called welcome. We will talk about views later on, but at the moment just keep in mind that a view is basically an HTML page that will be rendered. It can have a bit more than just HTML code, but it doesn't really matter at the moment. Let's see what we get if we serve our application. And let's open the application in the browser. And here we can see it, and this is the view that's returned from here, view welcome. Anyway, I don't want it, because now I want to focus on simple routing, so I'm going to remove the view. And I'm simply going to return a simple string, say example string. If we refresh our page now, we can see it over here, example string. Now, by default, text that's returned from our Laravel application will be treated as HTML by the browser. So if, for example, I return here some HTML code instead of just a simple string, okay, so here is some HTML code, and if we refresh our page now, we can see it as HTML, as rendered HTML. And here is our list that we defined here. Now, how do we create a second route? Actually, it's really simple. I'm simply going to duplicate what I currently have, the route that I already have. And the first parameter is the URL, or the route itself. So let's say that the name of my second route needs to be HTML page. So instead of /, I'm going to replace it with / and then HTML page. Like so. Now we should be able to access this route. So if I try to access in the browser to this route, HTML page, I get the same response because I return the same thing. So let's replace the content of our root route with a link to this page, and this way we will be able to navigate from our home page, from the root page, to this HTML page. And let's get back to our home page. And here we can see our link, and if we click on it, we navigate to this URL, to this page, and we can see its content that's returned from this route. Now, how can the browser know that the string, the text that was returned from our Laravel application needs to be treated as HTML code? So it's actually written in the response returned by the Laravel application. HTML is the default, so we don't have to explicitly write it, but we can. So let's create a new route, and this one will be for plain text instead of HTML. So let's duplicate this route. And as I said, the URL here is going to be plain text. And I want this text, what I return from this route, to be treated as plain text and to not be rendered as HTML. So instead of just returning the string from here, we need to return a response. And as a parameter to this response, we can pass the string. Now that we return a response, we can specify its header. And in this header, we can specify the content type. So as an example, I want the content type here to be text plain, which is plain text and won't be rendered as HTML. So let's add a link to this page, to this route, in our root route. And let's get back to our home page and refresh it. And now we have two links. And if we click on the link to the plain text, we can see this text, but this time it's not rendered as HTML and it's treated as plain text. So why is that? Let's open the developer tools by pressing on F12, and down here we have several tabs. The tab we want is called Network, this one, And if we refresh our page, we can see the route returned from the server, plain text as written here, and we can also see it here. So let's click on it. And down here we can see that the content type is text plain, as we specified here. Let's leave it open and get back to our HTML page. And if we click on this route, we can see that the content type here has the default value, which is text HTML. By the way, we can also edit the status return code. By default, it's 200, as can be seen here. But if we want to return anything else, we can specify what we want. So let's say that I want this page to return 201 instead of 200. All I need to do is go here to my route. And once again, if I want to customize anything, such as the return status code, I cannot just return a string, I have to return a response. And as the second parameter to the response, I can specify the status code. As I said, I want it to be 201. And if we refresh our page now and click on our route, we can see that the status code is indeed 201. But I want it to have its default value, so I won't specify it myself. And what if we want to return JSON? It's very similar. So let's create a new route. And let's say that the URL of this route needs to be JSON example. And as my response, I'm simply going to return some JSON. Once again, we will have to specify the header. And this time, we're going to set the content type to application JSON. Let's add a link to this route in our homepage. And let's get back to our homepage, refresh it, and if we click on the link to our JSON page, we get the JSON returned from our route. And if we take a look here at the route JSON example, we can see that the content type is application/JSON. Once again, if I want to change the status code, I can do it here. And now we get 201 as our status code.